So, welcome everybody. Today I am so excited to welcome a very special guest, David Yudovich. You live in Sweden and you are doing a lot of research, finishing up your PhD. And I thought it was really amazing because we are so excited about all the new sciences that, I mean, they're not necessarily new, but they're new to our understanding. Say they're an expansion. So I just love the research you're doing, and you're working at you're finishing this up at Columbia University, and you're doing also it's stem cells. You're looking at those for rejuvenation therapy. You also do all this, but you also are quantum physics enthusiast, and you also have been a channeler for the group of Ra, which you called Blue Avians. I have written about them in my book because I was fascinated with the Law of One, which from I wrote in my book that I just from one day or another, I don't know, years ago, I started writing down the Law of One. So I was like, what is the Law of One? Why am I writing this? And from nowhere. So it was just like so funny. And but now I really understand the Law of One and I live it. And I think as we are ascending and growing in our consciousness at this time, like never before, not only understanding science, but other things on another level, we are asked to really live this law of one. So I'm delighted that you're here today. I think it's really special. And I would love to hear from you a little bit about your history, what kind of brought you to all this? Like,
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathleen. It's a pleasure to be here and to join you in this talk. My track record, yes, it's a little bit analytical. I should say that. I am finishing up studies at Lund University in Sweden, and there we're primarily working with CRISPR and gene editing technology, and also building up a software for analyzing next generation sequencing data. But aside from that, I underwent a huge personal transformation. It started small in 2017 with regular things, and very quickly in 2019 is when I had both extremely challenging situations with the startup that I was driving at the time, and I was looking for solutions. And indeed, The Law of One, as a book, just like it appeared for you, just kind of dropped into my lap. And I was at that point, I was open, and I wanted to see what else is out there, and what could I learn in order to deal with the tough time I was having personally. I was looking for solutions. And as you start diving into this material, you discover that not only is it incredibly complex, like really complex, but you also discover that it makes sense. And on a fundamental level, it gives you a huge amount of answers to the most fundamental questions of how you create your own reality, about taking responsibility for your own life. People enjoy blaming and judging others. The system. I love the system. And so, in a very practical way, my entire analytical personality, with studies in the States and work in Boston and doing PhDs in competitive entrepreneurship, kind of directed its head towards spirituality. And so quantum physics, as you mentioned, has definitely been on the radar. And I enjoy bridging, whether it's from the very large to the very small, whether it's quantum physics, chemistry. So I'm a chemist by training, biology, molecular biology, whether it's DNA, which is a passion of mine. And then, of course, social systems, all the way to astronomy, where
wow.
we have nested systems that behave the same across different scales.
That is a lot. That is so cool. Well, I think what's awesome about this is that I think as we're getting to understand the quantum world, a lot of things are coming to us that maybe we remember on some level in our DNA. I don't know. It's kind of for me it made I kind of was searching for that my whole life, the answers, and I found them not so much. I was frustrated in the traditional sense with religion, even though I was raised in religion, but I really
Mm.
have gotten a lot from just expanding my understanding of the world we live and asking critical questions about how do things work, actually? How does this
Yeah.
go? And that's so cool. So I wondered how you got involved in channeling because you not only are interested in all this and astronomy and by the way, I once heard an astrologer, she actually told me this. She's really good. She said astrology is coming from astronomy, but she said it's kind of like the easier roadmap. Like you're not it's not an absolute because you are creating your reality, but it's like you came in with a kind of plan. So you're either going to go with the plan or against the plan. And I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of cool how she said that. But you obviously have had your own story, what brought you there.
Yes. And so I think my passion is about things that interconnecting things that are so well established that they just make sense. And as you mentioned, sort of from the quantum realm, where the behavior of a particle is and a wave is well established, and looking how does that same frequency or resonance plays a role in our life? Why would it have a role in our lives? And seeing those systems, as I mentioned, whether it's atoms and cells, from cells to bodies, from bodies to societies and planets and solar systems, all the way into a galaxy and a black hole, the way they converge. It's very fascinating how these same systems repeat the same patterns again and again and again. And so when I see these patterns, they are, well, it's clear that they're repeating, that they're nested, that they're reproducible across different octaves, as Ra and the Blue Avians would call it. And so my journey into channeling started with seeing those patterns and started kind of a conversation between myself, and trying to understand what was going on. And I would listen to Tina Louise Spalding, who's a channeler. She's channeling Jesus in Ananda, and she's brilliant, and studying A Course in Miracles, ACIM. And I would write down for myself things that didn't make sense. I would write for myself questions of things that I could not answer. It was essential that I wouldn't be able to answer the question. And then I just started writing, and an answer would come in. And I couldn't understand the answer sometimes. And sometimes it freaked me out so much that I had to set it aside. When they started talking about different frames of time, I just couldn't understand it. I put it aside. But slowly and surely, and I think this is important to mention, once a person is curious and a person is seeking, slowly a relationship with spirit is being built up, which will never scare you. It's not meant to overpower you. It's not meant to take away your free will. It's not meant to overthrow your actions or your ability to decide in any way. As long as you are interested and invest your own free will, you will get that on the return. And so that is what happened to me. And slowly over the period of the past 6 years, I've developed that capability more and more until now. I'm both moderating a book club for the Law of One. I'm also channeling myself, and I'm working with my spiritual mentor, who is Carol Morgan. She's also a colleague of Tina Louise Spalding. And together we are channeling the Blue Avian Collective, which is the Rock Collective. She is channeling, Carol Morgan is channeling Zena Allen. And we have a relationship where we are pushing the Law of One further and further, whether it's trying to understand how the now moment is created, whether it's seeing the toroidal structure in every aspect of creation and the way energy itself is built up, whether it's understanding how consciousness is transmitted, transreceived, by the human brain. These are fascinating areas that now is the time, as you said, to remember them, to receive them. And yeah, it's a fantastic journey and a wild ride.
That's so cool. So I just have one quick question. So I love that you were writing because you don't always hear that. Like you do hear people that are channeling, they hear voices or whatever. I had one experience once like that. That was more auditory, but you actually wrote it. So that's kind of wild. How did you figure out that that was not, that was coming from another avenue? Like that was like the field more than the, and how did they kind of say, I'm the law of one, I'm the law group of Ra? How did that happen?
It's a very important point. At the beginning, I thought I was talking to myself. I was driving in the car. I had a car ride to work, and I was at times frustrated, and I couldn't figure stuff out. Why was I behaving in a particular manner? And I would talk it out with me, and it made sense. It always made sense. And so at first, I thought I was really smart. Good for me. But very quickly, as I said, when I started writing these conversations, they never called themselves anything. It was just me talking to myself. But as I slowly started paying attention, I understood and I learned, and I think it's valuable to mention that when you write something down, because you're making it into a physical action, because you're writing it down on paper and it's coming through your entire system into your body, the connection is deeper, it's slower, it's more profound. And I encourage anyone to experience with that and experiment doing this valuable small thing. Ask questions that you do not know the answer to,
Yeah.
because by not knowing and demonstrating to yourself again and again and again and again that you are able to get valuable information, that gets the ball rolling. And then there's 4 other years where the connection improved and increased.
I mean, interesting enough, when I was writing The Law of One, it probably had something to do with that group because I just went to my heart. I didn't at that time I was writing a book, so I didn't need to know. I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was just doing the work I wanted to do. And but
Mm-hmm.
I think like why was I writing The Law of One? Like think about it. It's so strange. And
Yeah.
to this day I write it every day because I feel it makes me happy. So it's an energy in it. And the energy for me, I can share with my heart, said, you're not alone, you're not separate, you're connected to everything. You're connected to a field that loves you and that is about love and bonding. And I don't know, it was very powerful actually. So I wonder what emotionally it did for you to be doing this.
Emotionally, it was a huge transformation. Emotionally, I was raised in a type A family to be a type A person. Um, yeah. I grew up in a country and an environment. I grew up in Israel with the service there and everything that's going on there. I grew up very closed, very confident, very certain of what I needed to do. And those expectations, primarily from myself, but also sometimes others, but you choose to accept them on yourself. You do this for yourself, by yourself. They kept stacking up. And when I approached this material, there were a series of events that allowed me to see things differently and opened me up emotionally to be able to work through and forgive and let go of many of the things that I was exposed to. And I was able to understand that these things don't necessarily belong to me. You previously, I believe, spoke about the experience we hold on to in our DNA, in our upbringing, in our families, in our family lines, histories. And there's a lot of there's a lot of weight there that we are invited to let go. And so for me, emotionally speaking, there were several retreats, spiritual retreats with Carol, where little by little the heart started to open, the connection got stronger, the relationship got built up, the trust was there. It wasn't like an avalanche. It wasn't like gates opening. It was a gradual process. And I think that's what I appreciated most, because it shows you that you don't need to get abducted by aliens, you know.
No. Yeah.
You you can build up a relationship slowly, um, in a safe and supportive and loving environment. And so those are the frequencies, those are the emotions and the feelings that started to pour through more and more and more until the time that you experience instances of energy transmission, energy work, and healing. And you start to get a deeper appreciation as to how this relationship slowly gets built over time.
Beautiful. Now, how would you describe the law of Ra? I mean, the group of Ra, the blue aliens, how do they describe themselves?
Yeah, yeah. So the blue avians, right? They're the original bird tribes, as they're known in South American and Native American history. The blue avians are in Egypt. They're known as Ra, um, and they would describe themselves to be a collective of uh, of energy beings, consciousness beings. They would be an oversoul of oversouls, which is located in sixth density. So if an oversoul is, let's just take a fun example, as your higher self, is the summation of all your simultaneous incarnations, then they would be a summation of all the incarnations of all of their collective members, which is, I believe, some number of millions of beings.
Wow.
But most importantly, I think it's relevant to say that they say that they had their own third density experience, which is what humanity is going through on Venus in our neighborhood, which
Okay.
is funny how we got invited to be a part of this particular neighborhood, humanity being we. Over 2.6 billion years ago.
Wow.
2.6 billion years ago. And Earth is, around 4.6 billion years old. So at that time, Earth was in the cradle and Venus
Mhm.
was having a good time.
They were not humanoids, so they were something else.
They were not humanoid. They were, I believe that they were closer to avians.